course, the Warlock deck is Osha's Warlock deck is Control Warlock, so that's a very favoured matchup against the Paladin too. You could assume though that Osha had said to himself, right, he's just going to ban my Warlock or he's going to ban my Druid. It's not worth me playing the Hunter into it. So yeah, you're probably right. It's just a strong deck against his lineup. He just didn't want to play it or play against it.
Just wanted to avoid it at all costs, but it's just completely understandable. You know, you don't want to lose a game to that kind of situation. Like, I do it every time. If I'm playing against someone in like best of 5 or best of 3 or whatever, normally best of 5, of course. You know, I want to ban the most aggressive thing, especially like with Odd Pally. It's just, you know, it's a bit of a thorn really. It's just a massive pain in that backside. But speak of the devil.
Speak of the devil.
We see.
We've got Osha actually on the Odd Pally, obviously because Duncan's his banned, against Duncan's Druid, which is a Mali Druid. And the thing worth noting here, Duncan's teched in a Starfall, which is extra AoE against another board that the Paladin could create. So he's taken a deck that's fairly favourable. For example, obviously Spreading Plague and Giggling Inventor are very good cards at beating an Odd Paladin board. And he's added in an extra AoE. So I'm going to say fairly favoured here.
I'd say fairly. Wouldn't go wrong there, of course, with that Vine Cleaving Fungal Mats. He doesn't need that till later on. Probably not the best of mulligans for Osha. And of course, he would rather have at least another 1-cost minion to, you know, get a bit more value from that veteran anyway. But, you know, it doesn't matter to that extent. I can understand why he would change over. One thing to point out as well, that at least he did keep that Plague. And he does have that Nourish as well for later on. But at least Osha gets another 1-mana minion on the board to actually play with for the future.
To get going.
Yeah.
It's always a risk keeping Plague because sometimes you won't get the ramp and you won't get the swipe and you won't get enough of an early game that you can actually get to a turn where you play Plague, you die instead. So he's kept it on the coin. He's probably got a plan now where he's drawn the Nourish, where he wants to go Ferocious Howl on 3. He wants to go Coin Nourish for ramp on 4, maybe Hero Power down a minion. And then on turn, well, on the next turn, where he'll have 7 mana, he'll go Spreading Plague. So there's a plan. There's a plan formulating in Duncan's head already where he's worked out how he's going to play out his cards. Osha now needs to predict that a little bit, to understand how the game's going to go and to try and set up the best possible board he can into those turns that he should expect from Duncan. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. Of course, even though Osha's in a not bad state in terms of like his card draw compared to his mulligan, which wasn't the best in all fairness, it's definitely going to help Duncan's Plague, like you mentioned before. We'll put a 3-mana card down, we'll coin out the Nourish, we'll get that Plague. Completely understandable. But look at this from Osha though. Like, of course, as you know, maybe if he uses that Nourish, Osha will get a feeling where it's like, well, he must have a Plague. It's been a fair few turns now. And even later on in the game, if Duncan gets even that far, that late in the game, look at that. He's still got the Infestation. He's still got the other Nourish as well. He's got so much potential to get so much card draw just to not only keep himself alive, but if he takes it at late game, we could see a swing of things. Yeah, talking about swings, I think that there is going to be a big swing turn here. I think that Osha has just played out the early game slightly inefficiently there. Instead of hero powering on turn 2, he's chosen to play both of his minions on turn 2, which now means that he will have more dead turns. He'll have turns where he's floating mana, where instead of, well, he'll be just missing the 1/1s he could have got from that turn and still, you know, play the 1-drops later on. So I think that it's very likely now that Osha has a dead turn next turn, for example, and that's going to give Duncan the extra time, the extra health in order to get to the Spreading Plague that he wants to play so badly. Yeah, that's right. Osha was quite quick to make that turn as well, so you're probably right to the extent where, yeah, it's like you mentioned before, of course, if he does Hero Power and that turn instead, but at least next turn he could have Hero Powered again if some minions got taken off and played the 1-mana at the same time, so it would have made, you know, would have been a lot more sense. But now, you know, it's got something to think about now. It will play that 3-mana card anyway, but, you know, there's a few other options he could have done. He could have obviously used Wild Growth, could have gone into Nourish, straight into the Plague, so at least that way, you know, he can save his coin for maybe if he's in a bit of spot or bother. Well, he could have gone Wild Growth into coin Spreading Plague. Ah, yeah, that was an option he was probably thinking about that turn, where he could have reacted to the board that Osha's about to play, by playing the Plague. That would play around potentially a level up a bit better, because it means that Osha doesn't push the damage initially with the level up. So now the way that it's going to work is Duncan's going to either, well, he might coin the Starfall, to be honest, but if he coins the ramp, then, oh, he will coin the Starfall.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, he kind of needs to at this point. And one thing he's got to take into account as well, it wouldn't surprise me if he does use that, because as you may have noticed, like, he's going to know that he's not touched those first 2 cards in a while. So he could be thinking, oh, it must be level up. Oh, it could be Fungalmancer, which, you know, you can't be wrong. After this amount of card draws, you'd assume he does have something like that. So he will make that assumption, and it wouldn't surprise me if he does play that.
Well, I'm confused by Osha's turn, if I'm honest, because he didn't do anything. He passed. He attacked with his minions and he passed. He didn't play the extra hero power. And that's interesting because we can see the deck list. We know that Duncan has no way of getting to 6 mana this turn. So he's playing around a Spreading Plague for the future, I think, which is interesting. It also telegraphs, so as you said, Osha's not played these 2 cards in the left of his hand. He's had them since the mulligan. It telegraphs that it's not a level up that he has in his hand. Duncan will have seen that he didn't choose to hero power, didn't choose to produce the Silverhand Knight, and therefore will know that he had no plans for turn 5 involving getting as many 1/1s on the board. The Fungalmancer, for example, just only needs 2 minions.
Well, this is another question now for Osha, because, you know, it's got a lot to think about at this stage. You know, does he want to just hero power alone? And, you know, it will be a bit of a waste using Blood Knight. So not so early, but the fact that, you know, he's not getting much value out of it. And it depends. The question is, does he want more board presence, just so at least that way he's more of a threat to Duncan? Or maybe does he want to save it and just hero power? He knows he probably does have a Plague by now. We'll have to see how it works out. But he could use that Raid Leader just to have a bit, like I mentioned before, just a bit more of a threat. At least everyone's got +1. We'll have to see how he actually takes this from him.
Personally, I like putting as many stats on the board as you can at this
You're
stage.
a stat man. You're a stat man.
I'm a stat man.
I'm the stat man.
But Osha won't. The problem is that when you play a tech card in an aggro deck, sometimes you just need to tempo it out. You just need to play it as a 3-mana 3/3, as a whatever it is. And Osha could end up in a problem here where he holds onto this Blood Knight for far too long because he's just waiting for a giggling inventor that's just not coming. And as a result, he's not putting on as much pressure, or he's playing a 2/2, which instead is easier to clear or easier to get rid of. It will have sort of far-reaching consequences on the rest of his game, because obviously if that was a 3/3, the 4/4 would trade into it. His 1/1s could then clear it off. As it stands, that can't happen because it's a 2/2. So I think that Osha's focusing a little bit too much on getting value out of that card and should probably have played it last turn instead.
Yeah, because with Odd Pally, me personally, I'm more played in the control decks and that kind of stuff. I don't really play much Odd Rogue or Odd Pally because it's very simple. It's not really hard to actually try and work out. But I've not seen a Blood Knight in a Pally deck before this meta in a very long time. Even back then and even now, I've never felt like I found the opportunity to actually use it. Like sometimes it can, like you said before, it can just be a dead card. It could actually be useless. It's just a 3-mana 3/3 and that's it. You can't really get anything out of it. You can't get the +3/+3. You want it to make that 6/6 to make it some kind of a threat, which can be, you know, a bit of a pain. But even now, he does have that Divine Favour. He can use it to get 2 more cards on the board, but you know, he's got to think about what he wants to do now. Does he want to put the pressure on? Like you said, you are the stat man here, Leroy. So if you want to get that Fungalmancer down straight away and try and get some damage done. So at least if he gets that done, that's another 8 damage. That puts him down to 10 HP and maybe can do something with this afterwards. But one thing you've got to take into account as well, it does have that Vine Cleavers. So at least it can give, you know, more, the more board presence to at least keep it going. And then he's got that Divine Favour to fall back on, especially when he could use his Nourish or his Infestation.
Yeah, I think what actually might happen with the Vine Cleaver is it might inspire him to play the Fungalmancer and just ship it all to the face.
Yeah, just have it, mate. You know?
so he might just go, I'm gonna kill you this turn. Well, in a couple of turns. He doesn't. He trades, which is a bit weak, really. I don't know if he needs to trade there, but he's doing that. He's putting the damage on the board. He's
looking straight for it.
The numbers. He's putting the numbers into the face, and he's going for it. The thing that's surprising this game is Osha looks sort of unpracticed on the Paladin. He's floated a lot of mana. His early turns, which are so crucial, they're such key turns in this game. He didn't hero power on 2. He wasted his 1-drops instead, where he really didn't gain that much out of it. And as a result, it's meant that a little bit less damage has been pushed, and his opponent's at 12. A little bit longer has been spent trying to get to that turn, and it could be one of the factors that leads to his downfall here. I fear.
I'm starting to agree now because what I'm seeing from Duncan's lineup, of course, on 9 mana, you know, he's got that Plague to delay things. He can use Lich King to delay things further. He can use Infestation for card draw and to get 5 mana. And even with the other card as well, like, you know, it's another 12 armor on board. So it's like, sorry, did I say 5 mana earlier when I said Infestation? I meant 5 armor. I think I said 5 armor.
That would be, yeah, fair card.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, it'd be pretty sweet. You know, I wouldn't mind that.
Probably make it a neutral too.
Yeah,
so everyone has access to it.
You know that wouldn't happen. Definitely be some other class-based card anyway. But, you know, this is the problem now. So Duncan, I think he's in a quite good spot so far. But Osha, I'm starting to feel, you know, I wouldn't say he's running out of time as of yet. He has that Defiant Favour to fall back on, but it depends what he draws. This is the main thing we're talking about here.
I actually quite like the look in Duncan's eyes at the moment, which reads, I kept a Spreading Plague, but I haven't needed to use it yet.
Yeah, what's going on here?
What's gone here? And it's because Osha just hasn't really put on any... I say he hasn't put on any pressure. Duncan's at 12, but I don't think Duncan feels threatened at the moment. I don't think he's thinking, oh...
Would you feel threatened at this stage, to be fair? It's like, you know, it's one of those circumstances. No, I think you're absolutely right. So you get to that point where, you know, it's like I mentioned before, you know, he had Lich King or the Spreading Plague to kind of deal with it. At least now with Osha, he can deal with his Lich King, as you know, with Odd Pally and even on Rogue. It doesn't really matter about how much HP you lose for your hero because of the fact that it doesn't really make too much difference. You know, as soon as you lose steam or any kind of tempo, that's it. You're pretty much done for, and it just proves that HP for your hero makes absolutely no difference. So Duncan's just got so many answers to this at the moment. He's got a Plague. He won't use Infestation as of yet because he's not. He's in a good spot, but not the most comfortable spot just to like get away with it. Do you reckon? Yeah,
he could. There's a potential sort of Infestation the 3/3, Moonfire the 1/1 first, and potentially play a 4/4/2. It puts him up to a reasonable health total. The issue he'll have is that, one, he knows Osha has the 1 copy of Divine Favour. He might want to play around that. 2, Osha's kept this Blood Knight in his hand for ages. I think he should have played...
It's his favourite. It's his favourite.
He loves... I told you, week of the Blood Knight. You can't just play your Blood Knight willy-nilly. You have to show your Blood Knight respect. And it'll come through for you big time when you need it the most.
Oh, that phrase, willy-nilly. Do you know what? I used to use that phrase so much because Gaskin uses it all the time. And then I think I picked up that as a bad trait, but now you've started using it. So now I'm like, oh, that's 2 people I've got to deal with.
You gotta, don't play... That's rule 1 of Hearthstone. I think they teach you that in the tutorial. Don't play your cards willy-nilly. But I think that Osha is looking here for a final couple of turns where he can push the damage and potentially look for an out. I think one out that he might have is if he goes Blessing of Might on his 1/1, hits face with the weapon, and looks for Leroy. That's a potential way that he could maybe see this game out. He might also go for as much board presence as possible. So far, Duncan's not played a Spreading Plague. He has just drawn 5 cards, but he hasn't played it yet. Maybe if he spreads a little bit wider and provides taunts that won't die, or minions that won't die or that won't kill off the minions that Duncan has, then maybe he can get there with board control somehow. Yeah, not confident in that one as a way out for him.
Yeah, I think there is. It's this kind of spot now where I'm just happy the fact that he kept that Defiant Favour to a point where he can use it the best way he can for the value. Like, he could have used it earlier where he could have got an extra 3 or 4 cards, but now he's kind of back into it. I said it before where there's a lot of times with Odd Pally and obviously Odd Rogue as well where you always get to that point where you lose all the steam, lose your tempo, and then that's it, you're literally done. But thanks to him actually delaying that Divine Favour as much as possible to get as much value out of it, he's now back into it again. He's got plenty more options, but he needs to watch things now because with Duncan, again, he's got those 2 plagues, but Osha's just been a complete pain. He's not putting enough minions on board to actually make him want to use it, but he's going to have to use it at some stage.
He's going to have to use it. He might just want to use it simply because he kept it in his mulligan, and he's like, people will think I'm a fool. I've kept this card in my mulligan. I didn't even use it in the end. I thought that potentially what he could have done is last turn, when he played the UI, he got the Floop, as you can see in his hand, and he got the Arcane Tyrant. He could have played that too, to generate as much board presence as possible. He's held it so that he can get the extra value of the 1/5s here, play more 1/5s, but I'm not sure about that either. I think maybe he should have gone for as much on the board as possible. It also handily gives him 1 less card from Divine Favour.
I do like this play as well because as you can see, he will overdraw, but it's just a question of what he will overdraw. Yeah, sure, fair enough. It's not the best thing to do to give the old pally some extra ammunition to put into the hand, but, you know, Duncan's going to take a risk here to see if he can at least get something away. Bless him, you know, it depends on the scenario, but, you know, it's not going to help in any way, shape or form, considering he's got absolutely no ball control, and it's going to take a bit of working out for Osha here.
Yeah, well, it's looking pretty dire because the minions on board actually represent, well, not lethal as Osha can see it, but lethal as we can see it. And there aren't many ways out for him, unfortunately.
There isn't at all, is there?
I think, actually, the Sacred Maul, which I believe gives minions taunt, that's his only way out at the moment, as we can see it. It's probable that he won't do that. I think what he'll do is he'll look to load up the board as much as possible and try and set himself up for a turn where he just kills Duncan on board and doesn't, where Duncan just doesn't have the second spreading plague. I don't know if he'll see this line where he has to actually taunt to stay alive.
Yeah, this is going to be a question now because, of course, he's already got 10 damage on board, but again, if he doesn't taunt those minions, then he could be out of it. But of course, he will. He knows that threat is a possibility. So his head's on straight. He knows exactly what's going on. And with that swipe as well, it's
interesting. It's also potentially still lethal. But it's a bit closer, so Duncan's counting it out. Can we, as casters, do we have to count it out, or can we sit here and pretend that we know?
Well, you can sit and pretend you know if you want. You know, if you're one of those guys with a bit of the old quick math, then, you know, it's all good, isn't it? My math's pretty good in my opinion. I'm not being egotistical. Mine's all right. Mine's all right. But no, you can do what you like. You can say things like that. You know, if you get the math wrong, then I'll probably have a bit of a giggle at you, but that's about it, really. But I can see, you probably can't see it, but, you know, Leroy's literally doing his little hand gesture to work if he did have lethal or not.
It's not lethal. It's not lethal, but it might as well be near enough.
I'm lethal, though.
You're lethal. This isn't.
No.
But Duncan will have actually counted that. And he might even play a Giggling Inventor here, just to give Osha the satisfaction of finally playing the Blood Knight. Or so we hope.
Well, we hope so. It's been there for at least like the last 10 turns. Like, you know, I know it's probably your favourite card, but yeah, what can you do, eh? But Duncan probably bows that last minute. He probably had like an abacus in the background, like on the side somewhere, just like trying to measure out everything for his next turn.
It's like, oh, is this enough damage? Just counting his fingers. No, it's not enough damage.
No, his fingers, toes, his abacus, his Casio calculator. Scientific, obviously, because you need that for that card.
Yeah,
for this kind of game.
You've got to do the numbers. Again, that turn was another situation where Osha just didn't want to fill up the board. It's something he's not wanted to do all game. He doesn't really want to fill the board. And that, I don't know. It's very difficult because you have to toe the line between playing around the spreading plague and just saying, okay, he just doesn't have it. He just doesn't have it this time.
Oh, he just doesn't want to win.
Yeah, Osha's actually really dedicated to the art of losing stylishly.
Yeah, I can't be any words, but that's literally pretty true as well. Because yeah, it's understandable. Like, you know, you want to try and play around plague to an extent, but you know, how long do you want to do it? It was just, I think it's more the case of, yeah, sure, fair enough, Osha did play around play, which is good, but Duncan didn't fall for the bait, didn't fall for it at all. He's like, you know what, no, I'm going to, you know, I'm not going to play your little game of just, you know, waiting for the bait. I'm not going to take your bait, you know, I'm going to save this plague to the very last moments where I literally desperately need it and you run out of options. And it has got to that point now.
Yeah, it's got to that point. He'll play the plague at some point and it'll probably crush Osha so much that he concedes 2 games.
Straight into the Nether Realm, 0-2 straight away. See you later.
No, but again, this is what I'm saying about the power of Giggling Inventor. It's given him such a board. It's 1 card, Feat of Fungalmancer, and it's given him such a board that it looks like Osha could do okay here. He could get there. He could play. You know, this board comes out and then Duncan potentially. Well, this is lethal, but. There was a line, right, where potentially he gets the board back and doesn't just die. Maybe.
That's a big maybe as well after all that. And as you can see then, Osha, sadly for him, Duncan, you know, dealt with his little games and his little trouble, but, you know, it's kind of like the talking point against those kind of drew against with Odd Pally. It's just the fact that, you know, you want to try and bait him into using that plague as much as you can. He didn't really have too much ammo in his hand to actually try and bait him out. And it wasn't just the fact that, you know, kept 3 minions on board, which is obviously quite common, but it's just more to the fact that no matter what he did, Duncan still found an answer, and, you know, it kind of slowed down Osha's tempo, because I'm not saying he would have lethal a lot sooner, but at least he could have got the plagues out a lot sooner. Yeah,
he could have got them out of the way, he could have dealt with them. It's just that instead the game petered out a bit. He gave Duncan a lot of time to assimilate his pieces of his cards, so he could UI and he could play Arcane Tyrants and then play the plague at a bit of leisure, really. And then Duncan just found lethal through his own minion pressure because Osha hadn't been quick enough. But
yeah, this is the problem, isn't it? It's this, you know, like with any aggro deck, it's common sense. You're playing with time, aren't you? You know, you need to get to a point where you need to at least try and get the job done as quick as you can. And if you're literally given, like those kind of money decks like that, the opportunity to let them, you know, that's when the clock's ticking. But, you know, you can bait it out as much as you can, but it's going to get to a point where, you know, he had those 2 plagues, he had the Lich King as well. And we had, like, the Giggling Inventor after all that when he started running out of options. So this is the problem, you see. You're going to give him more card draw, and it's just going to get to that point where, you know, you're just going to lose straight up.
Yeah, he didn't even play the Blood Knight in the end.
No, he didn't.
Stayed in his hand all the way to the end.
No, he didn't. He literally just kept it there the whole time. You know when you've got like your favourite card or like your favourite Pokemon or something, he's like, yeah, I'm going to keep that there as like my lucky charm just to...
Go on, Blood Knight.
But it's, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah, you wait. The next game, he's going to need a Blood Knight exactly, and it's just going to come at the right moment.
Yeah, he's going to have like 3 minions. He's going to have the weapon with like Divine Shield, and he's going to give it to his minions and be like, yeah, my Blood Knight, you know, should be coming here around about now. No, I mean, he'll get it on like, you know, the 30th card. He'll be like, great, thanks, you know, I appreciate that.
You tech your aggro deck for certain matchups, and then the tech card that you put in specifically for things either gets stuck in your hand dead because they haven't played the card you're teching for, or you just don't draw it because you only draw 10 games in a game, 10 cards in a game you actually win. So a third of the time you're not even seeing the card. It's do
you know what? I'm actually starting to think. I actually do not remember the last time I actually used a Blood Knight, but I actually used it efficiently, like, you know, to a point where I've actually made some kind of use out of it. And watching that deck, I was just like, this is why I keep away from Pally. I've not used it since Secret Pally in 2016, I think.
This is the week where you get the Blood Knight. You finally get to see it work. Maybe not now, but eventually.
I hope so. I want to see it work at least once.
We've got some big Blood Knight games coming up.
Yeah. We'll definitely be talking about that in our next match because there's going to be a lot of aggro coming up. When I say a lot, I mean literally it's just full pelt, never-ending aggro all the way. But of course, that is later on. But have you seen what I've seen?
Oh, yeah, he's got... No.
he's got Malagos.
He's got Baku. Keep that in the mulligan. Changes your hero power. No, Duncan's got a very good draw here, isn't he?
Yeah, it's you know, having a Light Warden, then Kelesev straight afterwards. Yeah, I think he's done it right. I think
he's done pretty well. Duncan's also running. Oh, it's of note that Duncan's running double Despicable Dreadlord in his Warlock as well, which is a card that obliterates Paladin in the mid game. They play their hero power, and the Dreadlord says, "Not today. No,
not having any of that, mate.
None of that. not in my house." So Osha would ideally like to be in a position where it's early in the game and he's got board control enough that he can sacrifice or use his minions that have 1 health to trade and play around the Dreadlord a little bit.
I don't know why I gave myself a clap then because I was so excited. Like, literally, I saw Osha's face in. I want to see his face. I love seeing her face when they see a Kelesev turn 2. And literally, he just looked up to the sky and just like, why me? Like, you know, do you not like me? But you've got to think about it now. It's the fact that, you know, in terms of this situation, at least he's got something to help with his recruits later on. He's got his level up and he's like got the Blessing Might to kind of hold him off a little bit. So it's not a super bad spot.
It's not bad, and he's got the Purifier's Maul as well. So that will, as you said earlier, actually give them all Divine Shield just in time for the Blood Knight top deck that we're so excited for.
He's even doing it in his head. It's like, that Blood Knight had it for at least 15
can't
minutes.
Wait for the Blood Knight. The only issue is, as we can see, I mentioned it earlier, Duncan has the Despicable Dreadlord now. He's had a slow turn, a weak turn, and Osha needs to capitalise on this, get as much stuff on the board as possible, get as much momentum as he can, so that when it gets to turn 5, he doesn't have these 1 health minions. He's got stuff that's a bit buffed with Fungal Mancer or Level Up, as we can see in his hand, and he's slightly ahead. Having Divine Shields on your minions will also help with that because well, they won't die immediately to the Dreadlord.
I find it quite funny as well, just due to the fact that this is very similar to what happened in that last series where, you know, we saw Cold Hands had the perfect matchup, but just in the wrong game, and it's literally the same. It's literally the same thing, in all fairness. But no, it's like I say, you know, Osha's got a good ball control for now, but we'll have to see how this pans out.
Well, there's a draw here where if Duncan gets the healing, which he just did, this is nuts. This is Duncan is about to play his entire hand here. He might want to play so he didn't play the Soul Infusion. I thought he might play the Soul Infusion and play the Ghoul as a 5/5 instead of the 2/4 taunt. But either way, I mean,
this is God tier, isn't it?
He's just put all. It's probably better to play the 2/4 taunt. It's more stats.
Yeah.
And that's what we want to put on the board. Stats.
Yeah, like you said, you've mentioned before. I know you love your stats. You are a stat man. But looking at these stats now, you know, Osha's probably thought he's in quite a good spot with a bit of ball control. But you know, you can take some bits out here and there. May have to use a Blessing of Might to take out one of the other minions. But even then, it's looking quite bleak. And now he's with his last card getting that Divine Favour. He's not going to find any use out of that. Maybe till later on, depending on how many times Duncan taps. But you know, I wouldn't be surprised if it becomes a dead card, in all fairness.
I am confident here that Osha will make these trades. He will... Well, I don't know about that. He will use his minions and the Divine Shield to put everything to 1 HP, and then the Dreadlord will come down, and Osha will get very angry in Cypriot. That's his thing. So watch out for that, because as soon as the Despicable Dreadlord comes down, you can fully expect some just real angry Cypriot, like some real rage, and that's, I think, why we have cams in the Prem, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you know, I love a good rage. You know, love a bit of angriness and all that stuff, and all that bits and pieces. You know, don't get me wrong. Like, I hate being mad myself, but you know, when you make someone else mad, you're just like, oh yeah, I like. And
Duncan is in the driving seat. He is about to make Osha mad. So he should just play it. He could rope. He could bide his time. He could work out what he wants to trade. For example, he might want to put the 3/3 into the 1/1, or the 4/3 into the 1/1.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it, itself? Because of the fact that, like I mentioned, even if at the 5/5, at least it'll make, well, I was going to make some kind of use, but do you know what? I think his mentality will just be all over the place as soon as that.
It's like, I've got board, I've got loads of minions. As long as he doesn't have the Dreadlord, I'm fine. I just don't think that it's going to work out for him.
Yeah, no, it's got to that point out, right? Yeah, yeah. You love it. You hate to see it, don't you? You hate to see it. But like I mentioned, you know, he's got 2 of those in his deck. You know, you're bound to have, well, okay, not bound to have one, but
bound to have.
It depends on the situation. Like, it depends on what you have in Neil Mulligan and what he draws. But yep, sadly for him, that is the case. And yeah,
and now you see all these tools that the Paladin has: the raid leader, the level up, the Divine Favour. They're not really that good when you're behind. So this is sort of why Zoo's a very favoured matchup.
Oh, I was going to say,
for
James
the
in. Oh no, that's understandable. I was going to say, we've heard James in production says you love a good angry moment here and there.
I've been known on occasion
for tilting
to not
on the
be
face of the
happy
earth
about games of Hearthstone. There have been times where I may have walked out. I may not have walked out. Who knows? I may have had rough moments where I just didn't feel at peace with the game. Osha will be feeling that here.
Oh yeah, he will be. Like, one thing I was going to say as well is the fact that this happened to all of us. You know, I'm sure I've tilted into another dimension one way or another. I'll get triggered by someone's play just because of the fact that they topped it, saying I wish they didn't have. But look at this now, though. It's like, again, like I said with that Dreadlord, it's still going to take out.
Duncan needs to be semi-careful. He needs to, I think the card that he has to work out how to beat the best at the moment is Giggling Inventor. Yeah. That's always the, well, that will be, until the expansion or until the nerf, that'll be the card that everyone looks at as the card to play around or the card to consider. Oh, here he is.
Hi, Blood Knight. Bit late, mate, but
the
yeah.
Blood Knight hasn't...
That Blood Knight literally, oh my god.
I'm telling you, game 3, the Blood Knight is going to be the one.
I told you, mate, that card, I've never had a great opportunity or even a semi-decent opportunity to use it. And that was just a good example. He could have done with that literally earlier, and it could have, you know, helped him in more ways than one, especially against a Zulot. But even then, it's like, I love how he literally just conceded instantly as soon as he saw it. Like, it was just,
yeah.
Well, obviously he already lost anyway by that point with the cards he had. Like,
this Blood Knight just, it's the bringer of bad news.
But this is why I don't use a deck with Blood Knight in it, because I never get the opportunity to use it, and he's just a good example. I don't know if he'll use Odd Pally again. It would, to be fair, wouldn't surprise me if he did, but again, he's still got that old rogue left.
He's in the old cold hands position.
Yeah, he is.
He's played the same deck a couple of times now. He's like, I hate Paladin. I never win with Paladin. So he switches it up. What does he like? He likes Hunter. I hope he just jams a Hunter game here. has some fun, potentially.
Do you know what I'm thinking as well? Like, Duncan, even though his Odd Pally's actually been banned, which was the deck he actually had banned earlier by Osha, he's probably thinking to himself, do you know what? I'm quite glad my Odd Pally was banned now. Yeah. After seeing his little run in, it's like, well, but to be fair, you've got to remember, with Odd Pally, it is one of those decks, it is hit and miss. Sometimes when you do well, you do really well. When you do bad, it's like, well, it could be okay depending on your opponent's scenario. But yeah, I bet he is a little bit glad. I would be.
I'd say that Osha's had a bit of a rough time here.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, he's not the only one. Cold Hands can obviously maybe join him later.
Oh,
later on.
I like this opening hand though. This is something that I get offered a lot. You get offered the Kobold Librarian and the Spellstone against Odd Rogue, and you think, well, this is an answer for a hench tank card.
This is all right.
Surely I keep this, and usually works out. So he's got a nice pair of cards there to start with. Oh, and Duncan's got a Blood Knight.
He has, but the question, I don't want to say this, but what are the chances that he has like the best opportunity in the world to use that Blood Knight, and then Osha will probably just be like, obviously, it's just not the best mate, really, is it, that card?
Oh, the ultimate betrayal.
Yeah, literally, yeah. So it works for him and it doesn't work for me. Okay, all right, I see how it is. You know, I'm just going to tally on now.
Well, the way the draw is going, it's looking very much like Duncan's going to have to plonk this Blood Knight down on turn 3 by himself.
Yeah, pretty much. But this is the question. It's like, of course, will Duncan just put it down just to have a little bit of ball presence, or will he actually try and make some kind of use of it? I just love how he's actually got 2 deadly poisons as well. So any time he can have that juicy 6-2 later on.
Yeah, he'll get there. I mean, here you go. Your vanilla 3-mana 3/3 again. Being that he'll probably play the Blood Knight. There's an opportunity where he could also potentially dagger up Deadly Poison and Cold Blood. Oh no, he can't. He's only got 3 mana. He won't be doing that.
No, he won't be.
He won't be doing that. This is definitely a Blood Knight. I think he's probably roping it to say, oh no, I had loads of other options that weren't Blood Knight. I just chose this one.
And he's going to wish he didn't.
Yeah. You could just attack and hold the Blood Knight, re-dagger up, and then next turn you could play like a Blood Knight and a Cold Blood. It's an option. It's an option that he might be considering. Well, it'll be interesting to see what he goes for. Meanwhile, Osha has drawn the Skull of the Minari and 2 demons.
Yeah, I know. He's got so many answers as well. If things get a bit out of hand, of course, he's got his Defile. He's now got more card draw if he needs that. He's got his Spellstone if he wants to recover some health and maybe attack out a minion. He's got his Dreadlord as well for later on, for maybe if he gets some other 1-cost minions out of it. So it won't be as bad as Odd Pally as effectiveness, but it will do as well. But of course, the talking point is he has his weapon and well, he's got what now? Yeah, Void Lord out especially. Yeah, so you know he's a good saying. So he's quids in at the moment.
So we think he's got all the cards, right? He's got the cards that he needs. Does that mean that this turn he just uses a Defile and plays a Kobold Librarian? Because those are cards that he just won't be playing for a long time otherwise, and they limit the damage by 2 on the board. They produce something that Duncan has to hit into. They basically give him a little bit extra health and a bit more time to get this weapon going in case he pulls the wrong demon first time round.
Yeah, this is the issue. The only problem is the fact that in this kind of scenario, you've seen some decks in the past, especially with these odd decks, it's the fact that you always worry sometimes, just due to the fact that when you do use that Warlock weapon, of course, you know, you're a bit worried because sometimes some of the aggro decks will get to a stage where they've got so much ball control, ball presence, they could actually kill you that next turn, and it's a massive risk. But right now, he can actually risk it. He is in a good spot. The board is actually not that bad. I've seen much worse boards compared to what I've seen in the past, and it looks like he can try and at least get that weapon out ASAP later on, but of course he will use that Dreadlord to take out that Blood Knight.
So he's played the Dreadlord here instead of playing the weapon, which is and immediately it's a better immediate turn, but a worse turn in the future. He's playing around potential Cold Blood lethal. For example, that turn there, was very, very close to actually being just lethal for Duncan. He had 13 damage if the the Blood Knight stuck on board. So, you know, only 2 off, to be honest. I think it's probably better to play the weapon there, to take the hit, and then next turn use your Spellstone to recover, your Giggling Inventors to recover, and to get there, because you end up in the same situation anyway, right? You end up with this situation where you've got to play your Skull again, but they've had a whole another turn to develop minions and daggers and damage on you. Yeah,
this could be Last Orders as well. It's got 2 Void Lords now as well on top of that, like if he does get that weapon down. But this is the problem. This is literally what I spoke about just a minute ago. I said, you know, you've got to take that risk of putting that weapon down, and it's just a question of, yeah, of course, yeah, if he has Leroy and he has Cold Blood or anything like that, then, you know, he could turn things around and could actually have lethal. That's one thing Osha's worried about. But he's gone, you know what, I'm already down 2-0. I might as well take this risk anyway, and it could pay off for him, and even if it does, look, straight away, 2 Void Lords just to delay the inevitable.
Yeah. Duncan has an option here. He has the option to go all in on damage and do 13 here, where he would only need to draw, well, another SI7 agent off the top of his deck in order to kill him. He's already used 1. He's only got 1 left, so it's not a likely out, but it's something he can play for. I like this because it's a heads-up play because he expects the Void Lord. He expects Osha to have the Void Lord because he played the weapon after playing a demon. Why else would you do that, right? So he made that play hoping that Osha couldn't heal and hoping that he could get the damage necessary across in a couple of turns. Unfortunately for him, Osha's healed, Osha's taunted up, Osha now has another taunt coming and another heal coming, and then more taunts coming, and then more healing coming with Blood Reaver Gul'dan. So
he's loving life at the moment.
I think Osha would really, really struggle to lose this game from here.
Yeah, it's like I said before, he's got AoE, he's got another Void Lord, he's got Gul'dan as well. On top of that, for later on, he's still got 4 heal as well. Yeah. And those 2 Giggling Inventors as well. It's just a matter of time. It's just a shame that turn for Duncan didn't happen like 1 turn earlier. Maybe things could have changed, but he took the risk of using that weapon, and you never know. If he didn't use that weapon, we could be seeing a completely different story.
Yeah. Or if Osha had used it earlier, it would have probably even gone better for him. But as it stands, I think Duncan doesn't run Blink Fox. No, he doesn't run Blink Fox. He hasn't really got any cards that can help him get through these taunts.
It's got no silencers or anything like that either as well, which is also...
So it's pretty much not happening for him. He'll be racking his brains. Obviously, you don't want to concede a game, you don't want to give up too early, but he'll be racking his brains trying to think of the out. Think of how he can possibly win or how he can possibly real-life fatigue Osha. Bring him down. Like, we all remember the Dreadlord of last game.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It works. Like, Osha gets mad.
Yeah, he does. No, he's got mad every game so far. Maybe this game he might actually not get mad. He'll probably just get fed up.
Yeah.
He's like, right, okay, so finally I managed to actually take him out 1 game after God knows how much work. But to be fair, this is like the win he needed. It's like, you know, it's a lot of pressure at this stage. You know, they both can easily make it into this top 8 for EGX. And, you know, every single game counts at this stage. But at least, you know, Duncan it's like you said before, he's trying to stay alive. You know, he could be delaying the inevitable, but it's just a matter of what else he can actually do from this. Like, you know, you see how good decks in the past where did have to sign, like, you know, the spell break and bits and pieces like that, but they're not in these decks anymore. So these Void Lords will be a serious problem. And even now, like, you know, he can do ball clear. He could have used Gul'dan just to help himself as well. He had the Giggling Inventor, and he still had another 4 heal. And even with Blood Reaver, he still got the hero power, 3 health per turn. So
I think what happened there
he was done.
Duncan finished racking his brains for the out and went, not today, not one.
Yeah, you know, he had so much AoE. He had so many taunts and AoEs and so many health conditions as well, but he could have like stayed up as long as he could. Yeah. It just got to that point where he was just like, yeah, you know, I think I know what I'm done.
Eject.
Yeah.
Get out. Get out of the game.
Got to that point, didn't it, pretty much. Yeah. But this is the issue now. So the only problem is now Osha's got to deal with Yogg Rogue 2 more times. Once with the Odd Pally, where it'll depend on obviously that turn 1 kind of scenario, but that's more for the Odd Pally reflection matchup, so the mirror matchup. And then he's got that Death Rattle Hunter. Now, that'll be an interesting one because, as we know, still a very good deck in the meta, but it depends on what kind of deck is in terms of his odd rogues. So, you know, if he kind of had not a great start back then earlier, then maybe Osha would stand more of a chance. But It's going to be a tough one, I think. I don't know if it will lead to that Hunter now in the end, but we'll have to see if he actually chooses it on this next turn.
The Hunter versus Rogue is going to come down to, well, if we actually get to see it, it's going to come down to Osha having to play some pinpoint Hearthstone to make some very heads-up play and to get a bit lucky. That's how it works, unfortunately. When it's favoured versus unfavoured, Osha will need to get a little bit of the rub of the green. As it stands, though, he's gone for the Paladin. He's taken a matchup that he thinks is better because he just wants to go 2-2. Because he just doesn't want to lose.
He just wants it, doesn't he? He just wants it. That's all he asked for. But I think one thing, what I do like about Osha is the fact that he's kept the weapon. And of course, if he does get the one within the turn of minions of Divine Shield, that would be nice because he can actually make something out of it. He actually make some kind of use of it, which will be, it'll be nice.
Yeah, so this is actually a matchup I played last week in the tournament. And I did a lot of prep going in. And the one thing I found is that you want to hero power. Like, you will be in situations that feel really bleak sometimes, but you just need to keep hero powering, and you need to push that advantage for as long as you can until you get to oh my god, until you get to a point where you can level up, and then the rogue just can't beat you anymore. So
I think that's the right way. Yeah.
Yeah. Osha will probably, hopefully, have practiced this and hopefully be able to beat that or to put up with that. So hero powering next turn, for example, then maybe using the weapon, but probably hero power flame elemental again and so on, until you keep just grinding out their minions. Because while their dagger does 2 damage to a thing, you make 2 things. So you eventually...
That's pretty mental.
You eventually beat out their hero power with your hero power.
Yeah, I just... with Osha, it's a shame really, because even those 2 weapons, none of them are even for Divine Shield. It's for +1 and Taunt, so won't really make too much use. The +1, it obviously will help later on, especially for things like the Hedgecan Flag, but you've got to try and at least keep some minions on the board for that, which he will do later on, but it depends how long he manages to keep this alive. I think that's another question we've got to think about. But again, no use for that Blood Knight.
See, this is exactly what I'm talking about, that situation where things feel bad. Because he's a rogue, of course he's going to have like those better turns early. You just need to keep pushing that hero power, no matter how hard it seems, no matter how much you want to play a Blessed Maul, or well, potentially next turn he could go coin hero power Blessed Maul anyway and start clearing some of this stuff. But you've just got to keep doing it. You just got to keep hero powering. You
just got to basically just keep as much board presence as possible one way or another. And it's like you said with the minions. Yeah, that's completely understandable. Get at least as many recruits as possible so you got more minions to play in hands. It's not like you're just wiping out your whole hand straight away. You've got to keep the options open, which, in my opinion, that makes perfect sense. But it depends how long you can prolong this fuck. Of course, it's very easy just to say to yourself, well, you know what, I should probably, even though it's quite high at this stage, even if it's 5, 5, 6, 6, do I keep trading or do I just go straight for the face? Of course, he's doing the right decision. He knows that, you could see he's playing for time a little bit as well. Duncan does want to try and end this at 3-1, but keeping that fuck on the board, I think it's a good way. He's kind of like saying to him, well, you know what, I'm not going to trade with you. I'm going to let you trade with me, just so that way he can get at least more damage on the board.
It's an interesting one, though, to avoid killing the 1-1 with your Thug, because it leaves him open to, well, losing his Diamol, which is the beginning of the end. That's how the Paladin starts to get the board back. And I don't know if that's great. Like, he could have had a Diamol here that trades into the 1-1, and suddenly he can hit face and attack with his Thug, or set up a better turn than what he currently has. He's also been very clever there, as Osha, and I like this, where although he hasn't hero powered, and I think that could be fundamentally wrong in comparison, or considering the rest of the game, he's played the Blood Knight on his own Divine Shield because he knows Duncan has the Blood Knight too. So he's playing around it, and I think that's good because Duncan has 2 Blood Knights in his deck. It's quite likely to see that. Unfortunately, you can't play around Blood Knight forever. Blood Knight will get you. Blood Knight will get you.
One way or another, it absolutely will. And one thing I did like from that last turn is the fact that Duncan made sure as much as possible that, it'll keep that Thug alive. So, with his Blood Knight, it's made some great use out of it. I love how they actually both made use of it this turn, all in one time, all in one game, which is nice. But looking now, it's the fact that even if that Blood Knight died one way or another, that fuck is still on the board. And I think he knew that you could keep as much presence as possible. He really had to try and deal with it in one way or another. But you can see from there, he just really struggled from the start, and he's not really had an answer for it to adapt.
You do wonder whether there was a potential for this game to be won by him if he'd have just hero powered and weaponed. Just keep, like, no matter how bad it feels, just hero power and do. So it may
do as you're told.
It may have been that there were outs for him or potential ways that he could have won this game, and it'll be something for him if he's listening to like a VOD of this in the future, or if someone wants to go back through the games with him later. It might be worth having a look at and just seeing whether there were outs, whether it was possible for him to win if he'd have just kept hero powering. I think it's fundamental to the rest of the matchup. As it stands, Duncan has just top deck lethal, or top decked a 1-drop in order to kill him, and that's it. 3-1 Duncan. Yeah,
it wasn't too bad in all fairness. Of course, like I said before, I love it when you say firepower. When you say firepower, you just look at me with a cheeky grin. It's like, yeah, I was going to do that all the time. But now, of course, that's right. Duncan will take down Osha 3-1, and there was, like you said, he could have had plenty more opportunities if he did. I'm going to say firepower then, hero power.
Yeah.
But he could have at least made a bit more board presence, maybe try and deal with that thug one way or another. But, when at one point we got that Blood Knight down for Duncan, that was kind of like, yeah, I'm pretty much all done for. That was the ending. Like, it's a salt to the wound, pretty much.
You need to hero power 4.5 times to kill this.
Pretty much.